The champagne glass exploded against the marble floor, crystal shards skidded across Italian. Leather shoes worth more than most people's cars spraying Dom Perignon like spilled blood. I did not blink, my eyes stayed locked on Harold Blackwood. Standing at the head of his massive mahogany dining table, his face red with expensive wine and something far cheaper contempt, as he loudly announced to the room, full of country club elites, business partners, and frozen family members, that his daughter deserved better than trash, calling me street trash dressed in a borrowed suit pretending to belong in their world, and the silence that followed slammed down like a vault door with 23 sets of eyes flicking between him and me, waiting to see if the nobody dating the princess would dare speak back to the king, while I slowly folded my napkin, a piece of cloth that probably cost more than my first apartment's monthly rent, and placed it beside my untouched $40 salmon before calmly standing and thanking him for dinner, and for finally being honest about how he felt as Sophia's hand shot out to grip mine, begging me not to react, and I gently squeezed her fingers, then let go, telling her softly that it was fine, and that her father was right, and that I should know my place, which earned me a smug, satisfied smile from Harold. The kind of smile worn by a man who thought he had won, and finally driven away the street rat who dared touch his precious daughter. If only he knew, as I walked out of the dining room with my head high past the Monet, in the hallway past servants who suddenly found the floor fascinating, and past the Bentley in the driveway that Harold had proudly mentioned cost more than I would make in 5 years, only for Sophia to run after me, reaching my sensible Honda, the same car Harold had mocked when I arrived, apologizing through tears, saying she had no idea he would act like that, as I pulled her close, breathing in her perfume mixed with heartbreak, and told her it was not her fault, while she whispered that she would make him apologize, and I told her no more apologizing, no more excuses, because he had finally said what he had been thinking for a year, and now we knew where we stood. And when she pleaded with me not to let him ruin us, I kissed her forehead and told her he could not ruin what was real, promising to call her tomorrow before driving away from the Blackwood estate, watching the mansion shrink in my rearview mirror, its lights glittering like stars I was supposedly never meant to reach, as my phone buzzed before I hit the main road, which I ignored, knowing it was probably her mother trying to smooth things over, or her brother offering awkward sympathy, because they were not bad people, just weak ones too afraid of Harold to stand up to him. But I had more important calls to make, so I voice dialed Catherine as I merged onto the highway, telling her I knew it was late, and when she asked if everything was all right, I told her to cancel the Blackwood Industries merger, which was met with stunned silence as she reminded me we were scheduled to sign Monday with due diligence complete and financing secured, and I told her I was aware, and to killeth not caring about the termination fees, and instructing her to send notice that night, citing irreconcilable differences in corporate culture and vision, which made her drop formalities and ask what happened at dinner. When I told her he called me trash in front of everyone, prompting fury on the other end as her keyboard erupted, and she said she would have legal draft the termination within the hour, asking if I wanted it leaked to the press, and I told her not yet. To let him wake up to the notice first and give the media the story by noon, then asked her to set up a meeting with Pinnacle Corp for Monday, which made her laugh as she realized I was going to buy his biggest competitor, and I told her, trash head, to stick together, before hanging up and driving home in silence, watching city lights streak past, reminding me how far I had come from shelters, free lunches, and pure survival, because Harold Blackwood thought he knew me, thought he had done his homework, knowing I grew up poor, worked at 14, and fought my way through college on caffeine and grit. But what he did not know was that the man he dismissed had built an empire in silence that crossed technologies. The company, his firm, was desperate to merge with was mine after a decade of acquiring patents, quietly poaching talent and positioning power while staying invisible on purpose. Because real power comes from being underestimated, from letting men like Harold think they hold all the cards right before the table flips. And as my phone rang, pulling into my building's private garage, I smiled. Harold, CFO. Martin Webb. That was faster than expected. Adrien, it's Martin. I'm sorry to call so late, but we just received a notice from Cross Technologies terminating the merger agreement. There must be some mistake. No mistake, Martin, but we're set to sign Monday. The board has already approved. Shareholders are expecting. Then the board should have thought about that before their CEO publicly humiliated me at dinner tonight. Silence, then quietly, what did Harold do? Ask him yourself. I'm sure he'll give you his version. Good night. Martin, I hung up and headed to my penthouse, pouring myself a scotch and settling onto the balcony to watch the city sleep somewhere out there. Harold Blackwood was about to have his evening ruined, and I wondered if he would make the connection immediately, or if it would take time to realize that the trash he dismissed controlled the one thing his company needed to survive the next fiscal year. My phone buzzed, Sophia calling, and I let it go to voicemail, not trusting myself to separate my anger at her father from my love for her, because she didn't deserve to be caught in the crossfire, even though some battles couldn't be avoided. And by morning my phone showed 47 missed calls, with Harold himself trying 6 times, which must have been killing him. The great Harold Blackwood reduced to calling someone he declared trash while I reviewed quarterly reports over breakfast, when Catherine called saying the financial press had caught wind of the terminated merger and Bloomberg wanted a statement. So I told her to say Cross Technologies had decided to explore other opportunities that better aligned with our values and vision for the future, vague and devastating, which she loved, before adding that Harold Blackwood was in the lobby, having arrived 20 minutes earlier, making a scene and asking if she should have him removed. So I told her no, send him up, but make him wait in the conference room for 30 minutes because I was finishing breakfast, and she joked about prepping the room with the uncomfortable chairs in 45 minutes. Later I walked in to find Harold looking far less imposing than the night before, his perfect hair disheveled, his tie askew. The man who ruled dinner like a king, now exposed as a desperate CEO watching his future evaporate as he stood and thanked me for seeing him, and I sat without offering a handshake, telling him he had 5 minutes while he swallowed his pride and apologized, calling his words inappropriate, which made me laugh because he had called me trash in front of everyone, humiliating me in his own home at his own table while I was there as his guest and his daughter's fiancé. And when he blamed the alcohol, I cut him off, telling him drunk words were sober thoughts and that he had looked down on me from the moment Sophia introduced us, and even now, desperate, he couldn't hide his disdain as he asked what I wanted: an apology, a public statement, anything, as long as the merger happened. And I asked him why I should do business with someone who fundamentally disrespected me, which made his face flush as he claimed it was just business. And I told him everything becomes personal when you make it personal, then explained that he researched my past, foster homes, free lunches, night shifts to pay for textbooks, but stopped there, assuming where I came from defined me without ever looking at where I was going. And I gestured to the city, explaining that Cross Technologies succeeded because I remembered being hungry, being dismissed, being underestimated, and every hire, deal and product was about creating opportunity instead of protecting privilege, and that his company represented everything. I built mine to fight against old money, guarding old ideas, and when I challenged him to name a single leader who hadn't inherited their seat, his silence answered for him. So I told him the merger was dead, not because of the insult, but because he showed me who he and his company really were. And when he said it would destroy them, I told him maybe it should, and that it was time for the old guard to make way for companies that judged people by potential, not pedigree. And when he tried to stop me by bringing up Sophia, I paused and said she was brilliant and capable and didn't need to inherit success because she could build her own, which was the difference between us, because he saw inheritance as destiny, while I saw it as a crutch. And when he said she would never forgive me, I said maybe not, but at least she would know my principles couldn't be bought or intimidated. And I left him there, returning to my office, where Catherine waited with messages saying Pinnacle Corp wanted to meet Monday, and the leak was already arranged, and that Sophia was in my private office, where I found her waiting, eyes red but steady, and she admitted her she had been a coward, making excuses for her father, and that watching him made her ashamed, and that she wanted to build something new with me without family, money, or approval. And when I asked if she was sure, she laughed, reminding me I had just killed a $2 billion merger over respect, and that we would figure it out because she loved me and I loved her, even if I had declared corporate war on her father, especially because of it. And when Catherine called again, saying Harold was holding an emergency board meeting, I told her to inform them Cross Technologies might consider talks under new leadership, which shocked Sophia until I explained it was a choice, evolve or perish, and she smiled sharp and dangerous, asking when we started, and I said now. And that was how the nobody dating the princess became the king who toppled the kingdom, not with force but with truth, that respect isn't inherited, it's earned, and those who refuse to give it learn that sometimes The trash takes itself out and takes everything with it, because by Monday, Harold Blackwood was no longer CEO. By Tuesday, a new merger was announced. By Wednesday, Sophia joined us, and by Thursday, Harold learnt the most expensive lesson of his life. Never call someone trash unless you're prepared to be thrown out with it.